Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zeng here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked, where I climb the online VGC 15 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. It is Monday, so we are featuring a brand new team finally, not using that sand team which we used for a very long time. I'll be doing an analysis on that soon as well, so keep your eyes open for that, but we'll be jumping onto the ladder with a brand new team today. The team was actually created and given to me by a player called Danny Hemchand, who lives around the Northeast area. He's a fantastic IM player. We've actually played multiple times, including Apex and Regionals, and he actually used this team at both of those tournaments, so I'm pretty familiar with it. He wanted it to be featured, and it's a really strong team. I've played against it before. It's got a couple of unconventional stats in Pokemon, so I figured it'd be very fun to try out. So we'll be using this team throughout the week. Shoutouts to him. I'll link his Twitter in the description below if you're interested in following him. He also goes by Jabberwockies online, so if you ever see him on like Nugget Bridge, that's him. But we're gonna jump onto the ladder with this brand new team. Of course, it features a bunch of Pokemon that I've actually not used before. Most prominently the Volcarona and the Togekiss. Those two are two really interesting Pokemon. Volcarona is quite powerful, Quiver Dance is really good paired with moves like Heat Wave. This one actually runs Giga Drain over Bug Buzz, and Giga Drain Volcarona actually makes a lot of sense, especially with all the Terrakion running around. Now it's actually kind of interesting to note because Danny and I played at Apex and he didn't have Giga Drain then, he had Bug Buzz instead. If he had Giga Drain there, he definitely would have won, but we find a 1696 opponent from Japan for our first opponent of the day, rocking a team of Salamence, Gothitelle, Breloom, Sylveon, Heatran, and Azumarill. So really interesting here because of the Gothitelle. That's probably the one that sticks out to me the most, but just a bunch of interesting Pokemon. Azumarill here as well. It looks more of a Trick Room team than one that would rely on, for example, speed. So he's probably going to try to get Tailwind up. Not Tailwind, excuse me, Trick Room up. So I'm going to want to prevent that. Doing so will be a bit difficult though. Let's see. For those wondering about the sets, Rotom is actually a very frail Life Orb offensive set, which is really interesting because you don't see those around very much. Whenever you see Rotoms, typically you assume they're like bulky and Citrus Berry, but Togekiss here has a Citrus Berry. So let's see what I want to lead with. Of course, our Mega Evolution with this team is Kangaskhan, which I actually haven't really used on Road to Rank very much at all, so it'll be interesting to be using Kangaskhan, even though it's the most common Mega Evolution in the format. I do like leading with Kangaskhan here, I think. I could go Kang Landorus just to U-turn out immediately, even if he decides to lead with Gothitelle. And I actually kind of like that. I think Aegislash here is really good, especially with Weakness Policy, which is what it has. And I do have HP Ice on this Rotom. With Life Orb, I can actually knock out Azumarill, Heatran, and the Salamence. So the real question is, do I have enough ways to beat the Breloom, since that probably causes me the most problems. But yeah, I like that. I don't like Togekiss too much in this match because Tailwind isn't exactly the best. Now Follow Me support is actually pretty fantastic, and Volcarona in the back could have been useful as well. Main reason why I don't want to bring Volcarona though is because it is absolutely walled by Heatran and can't do very much to Salamence either, so I decided to keep it on the bench. But we're going to get into this match. And as always, if you enjoy Road to Rank, please share your support by leaving a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. My opponent's going to lead with the Salamence and the Gothitelle against my Landorus and my Kangaskhan. Landorus's Intimidate goes before that Salamance's. Of course, I am Choice Scarf on this Landorus. So this is actually pretty interesting because I had Salamence and Gothitelle on my VGC 2014 team. Now this Salamence, I presume, is Mega Salamence, but still pretty interesting. I think it's a strong lead matchup for my opponent here since he does get the Intimidate right away on both of my physical type Pokemon. I do have the option to, of course, U-turn out immediately though. So what I could do is just fake out Salamence and U-turn from the Gothitelle. I could also just Rock Slide, but I don't want to lock myself into Rock Slide, so I'm just going to fake out U-turn this first turn. He is Mega Salamence, that's not too much of a surprise. The real question is what kind of Mega Salamence set he is. Of course, the special variant is actually really, really popular now as opposed to the physical one that, I used earlier on in the season and a lot of other players used as well. Even just the double-edged Dragon Dance Earthquake set was very, very common. Now it's more Hyper Voice, but we're going to see that Protect come out from Salamence, so I presume we might see a double Protect here. Let's see if Goth also goes for it. It indeed does go for the double Protect, so a smart play by my opponent just to get the speed boost immediately, scat out for a potential Protect from my Kangaskhan, and see what Landorus chooses to use since he did confirm my Scarf given the Intimidates. So that puts me in a pretty precarious position. Now, I know that he can't do too much to my Rotom with the Salamence, unless he has like Draco Meteor or Dragon Pulse, I guess. So I do want to U-turn out again. The question is, do I want to prioritize damage onto Lagoth or the Salamence? Because I do have that HP Ice with Rotom. So I could just go straight for the double edge here onto the Goth. And I think that's what I'm going to do. Gothitelle is more annoying because of its ability to lock everything in, so I'm just going to try to switch out here. Now the tough thing about this team, or not this team, but I guess this Kangaskhan set is it runs low kick over power up punch because it prioritizes getting knockouts. Obviously that's great. For me, I'm a player who has actually used power up punch pretty much all the time I've used Kangaskhan, so I haven't actually used low kick Kangaskhan before. And this is one of the positions where my opponent wouldn't be able to knock out me, so it would be a good time to, you know, maybe set up a power up punch. At the same time, he could actually maybe go for something like Helping Hand, and that is exactly what he goes for. A nice move by him here, so we might see a Hyper Voice, maybe a double edge. But I am going to get the U-turn out, so at least I'm going to be able to get my Landorus. That does a lot of damage, actually, even with the Intimidate. Not even a critical hit, which is kind of surprising. So it doesn't look like this Gothitelle is too defensively bulky. The question is, do I want to switch out into Aegislash or Rotom? Part of me wants Aegislash just because Rotom is so frail, I don't want it taking any damage, but the thing is, then I can put on pressure with an HP Ice the following turn, which he's definitely not anticipating. So I think I'm actually going to bring in Rotom to try to pick up this knockout onto Salamence the next turn by surprise. And he does go for the return onto the Kangaskhan, so he's not the special variant. So that Intimidate does end up helping me because I do survive with 43 HP, even despite the Intimidate. A double edge here actually picks up the knockout, getting a critical hit on that second hit, but the most interesting thing to note was that Gothitelle did not carry the Citrus Berry, so Kangaskhan managed to also hang on with 10 HP. It's really, really good knowing that Salamence is physical, because now that means that my Landorus will be able to just get another Intimidate off. He's going to bring back Sylveon, though, which is pretty problematic for me here. Sylveon, not the best Pokemon to face against with this team, but I think what I can do here is just sack my Kangaskhan and get a free switch into Aegislash. So, let's see. What do you do for my opponent here? You probably want to return the Kangaskhan and just Hyper Voice. Now, interestingly enough, I could actually just decide to sacrifice both my Pokemon. I'm not going to choose to do that, though. I'm not particularly fond of that. I think I'm actually just going to switch out into my Aegislash and protect with Rotom. Reason why I don't want to sack Kangaskhan here is because Fake Out is actually really, really good with it. You know, because I do carry Fake Out on Kangaskhan here, he can come out in the future and allow me to get a free turn of damage off, especially against a Sylveon, in which I don't have great ways to effectively knock it out. So, gonna play it safe this turn. He could potentially Dragon Dance, but nope, we just see the return onto Aegislash. With the Intimidate, that does really little damage, and he does go for a Hyper Voice, but, you know, that's better than losing Kangaskhan, I'd say, so it was worth the trade-off, though Aegislash does take somewhat of a beating there, bringing me down to 95 HP. So now I'm actually just going to go for the Flash Cannon onto Sylveon and the HP Ice onto the Salamence. We don't know what item the Sylveon has. It could be Specs. I'm not actually entirely sure based on that damage output. Probably should know, but, you know, I'm not too worried. The main thing is because Rotom is so frail, the Life Orb plus the Hyper Voice I don't think it'll be enough to knock it out. Maybe we'll put it in very low HP though. The main issue, I guess, is the Heatran or the Breloom in the back, though in retrospect I'm not too worried about it given that I've got Kangaskhan and Landorus in the back. So it was really good picking up that knockout onto Gothitelle. Once again, I'm a bit surprised that it just went down to those attacks, but like I said, it didn't seem like it was the most defensive, probably focusing more on special defense, which Gothitelles tend to do. You know, when I used Gothitelle in VGC 2014, I actually basically ran 252, 244 in special defense to survive Hydreigon's Choice Specs Dark Pulse. We're just going to see a, wow, double edge and return on the Salamence. That is really interesting. So I do reveal the Hidden Power Ice here. That's going to be able to knock out the Salamence, I believe, with the Life Orb as it is. So that's awesome. Gets a critical hit there, but shouldn't have mattered there. So Salamence goes down to the Hidden Power Ice. You know, the offensive Rotom here coming through. Hyper Voice is going to come out from that Sylveon. I guess I actually could have gone for the Wide Guard instead, which in retrospect might have been a bit better of a play. So that was not exactly the best of decisions on my end. However, I am able to get a free Flash Cannon off here, which is obviously fantastic for me, so that's good. That should be able to do around 70% to Sylveon. Yep, right around the money there, a bit less. So it is in range for another one to knock it out. I'm going to bring in, let's see what he has, a Azumarill, Heatran, or Breloom. If this last one is Heatran, he's definitely done for, given my Landorus. I think Landorus is actually just the call here, just because I can King Shield and Earthquake to knock out the Sylveon. Looks like his last one's going to be that Azumarill, which can be somewhat problematic maybe, but I think at this point in the game it's actually fine. So I actually am kind of happy I ended up bringing in the Landorus here, just because Kangaskhan would have had to deal with the Aqua Jet pressure. So here I'm actually just going to go straight for the King Shield and the Earthquake here. And that should be able to knock out the Sylveon, unless he reveals a Protect, and Azumarill will take damage obviously as well. He can't knock me out with the -1 Azumarill. I guess unless he's Choice Banded and he locks himself into something like Waterfall. But if he does choose to do that, then he doesn't have the priority Aqua Jet to knock out my Kangaskhan in the back. So this is going to come down to the wire, but I feel like I should be able to win this one. But gonna play it safe here. You know, I could have chosen to wide guard with Aegislash, but no reason to really do that because I'd rather just, you know, put myself into shield form, prevent myself from doing any damage and from taking any Aqua Jet damage should he choose to do it. Looks like he's not going to protect with either of his Pokemon, so Earthquake will be able to knock out Sylveon and do around 40% to that Azumarill. Lo and behold, though, he does have that Waterfall, so I'm wondering if he's the Choice Band variant. Waterfall, however, is not enough to knock out my Landorus, which is nice. Though this is actually kind of interesting now, just because Landorus is locked into Earthquake. I mean, I could go for the... I think I'm just going to Flash Cannon here. And I'm actually going to switch out into Kangaskhan. Yeah, I like that play the most. So, obviously, all three of my Pokemon are pretty heavily damaged right now. And I mean, it's an Azumarill, given how low HP he has. Yeah, he does go for the Aqua Jet onto the Lander slot. Okay, perfect. So, this allows me to get another Intimidate off. That means he shouldn't be able to even knock out the Aegislash. Though, I guess I could have saved Kangaskhan for the Fake Out play. But let's see if Flash Cannon is enough to knock it out here. I don't think it will be, but we'll see. Yeah, he hangs on with the bait. Not Life Orb, excuse me, Citrus Berried either, though, which is interesting. So I'll bring in Landorus here. And that actually should be game. I'm not going to bother changing forms of Aegislash. I'm just going to go for the Flash Cannon, and Rock Slide should be able to pick up the KO. I guess I'm risking the miss here, but, you know, this is one of the positions where you really don't want to choke, because I guess if I King Shielded with Aegislash and he Aqua Jetted, he could knock me out. And then maybe a Waterfall crit. I'm not even so sure if -2 Aqua Jet can knock out Aegislash in this range. So maybe the better play would have just been to King Shield and deal with the excuse me, the risk potential. But nope, so I did in King Shield because I predicted he'd target Landorus. So you know, if he target Aegislash, as long as Rock Slide connect, I would have been fine. Of course, could have chosen to Earthquake as well, but you know, if he protected there, though he might have been Assault Vest. I'm not entirely sure. He would have been able to just win the game if he had Protect and he wasn't Assault Vest, because I would have knocked myself out and then he could have Aqua Jet. But we are able to pick up a win in the first game of today's episode, and with this brand new team. That was a really fantastic game, actually. You know, little RNG all around. Really interesting to see my opponent carry both Return and Double Edge on that Salamence. Definitely wasn't anticipating that. If he went for the Helping Hand Double Edge, he actually would have been in a better position because he would have knocked out my Kangaskhan. I think the really defining play in that game was just being able to knock out the Gothitelle immediately with that U-turn/return combination. Really powerful physical type attackers, and even after the Intimidate, able to pick up that knockout. So we're going to look for the second game of today's episode, as we currently sit just under the 1800 mark. So yeah, that was really, really fun. I actually really haven't used, you know, like I said, Kangaskhan very much on Road to Rank. The Landorus, I haven't used it too much either. Rotom Wash, this is my first time actually trying out offensive Rotom ever. Basically, whenever I've used Rotom Wash in the last 3 years of VGC, it's always been bulky, so it's pretty interesting to try it out. I'm sure the Hidden Power Ice caught my opponent off guard too. And when you look at a team like this, you feel like Salamence would be a really good call, just because, oh, I can Intimidate, I can knock out the, you know, the Volcarona, even though Togekiss, Aegislash, and Rotom are on the team at the same time. Ability to hamper the Kangaskhan and Landorus is really helpful, but that's why I was kind of surprised that even the Intimidate didn't shut me down from knocking out the Gothitelle, but there's no doubt in my mind that Gothitelle was very specially invested. But yeah, we're just going to look for the second game. Togekiss is also a really interesting Pokemon because of its ability to support with Tailwind and Follow Me. You know, Redirection is very important in VGC. For example, Sejong Park always uses Redirection on his Worlds teams. Or not always, I guess I should say, but last 2 years he's used Magmar and Pachirisu for Redirection, and it's just really powerful. Our second opponent of the day is going to be a 1736 rated player from Japan. We do see a bunch of returning Pokemon here, but Kangaskhan, Gengar, Landorus, Azumarill, Amoonguss, and Heatran. So could actually have a Perish Trap component given the Gengar, Azumarill, and Amoonguss, which we saw in yesterday's episode. The Perish Trap, at least. But let's see. So Kangaskhan Mirror Match here, always a bit scary. I do have Togekiss for the Tailwind support, which can go a long way. He's got his own Redirection with the Amoonguss, which is always scary. Rotom Wash here, once again, fantastic in beating Azumarill, Heatran, and Landorus, so it's very tempting to bring that. But the difficult thing with this Rotom is Kangaskhan actually just does so much damage to it, so I'm gonna need to protect it effectively. Volcarona here, once again, tempting call, because I can Heat Wave, I can Quiver Dance, but I don't know. It's never too fun facing against a Heatran when you have a Volk. Let's see. I really want to... Togekiss, I think Tailwind might be the way to go in this match. I like leading Togekiss and Rotom here, I think. With Kangaskhan and Landorus in the back, I think. Just because this way I don't have to deal with Intimidates with my 2 attackers in the beginning. I can redirect immediately with Togekiss. Togekiss also can Air Slash the Amoonguss, which of course has that 60% flinch chance with Serene Grace as well. I don't want to bring Egg Slash here just because of the Amoonguss and the Heatran. I do have Weakness Policy, so I could potentially walk into one of those, but I don't know. That's one of the reasons why I like Life Orb more on Egg Slash, just because you don't have to get hit by a super effective attack. And so the real question is it worth bringing Egg Slash or Volcarona? I don't really think it is, so I'm going to lock in and we'll see how this plays out. So Togekiss making its first appearance on Road to Ranked on my side of the team, which should be pretty interesting. We'll see how this plays out. I'm going to be trying to set up a Tailwind if anything, but I've also got the Intimidate support in the back immediately. Matchup here is definitely a bit scary, but we'll see how it plays out. So I'm going to lead with Togekiss and Rotom Wash as my opponent decides to lead with Kangaskhan and Gengar, I believe. Yeah, that's a pretty strong lead from my opponent. But let's see what I can do. Kind of want to actually just switch out into Landorus immediately. I mean, what I could do here is protect and switch out into Landorus. I could also just go straight for Tailwind. But I think I'll want to protect and switch out, yeah. Just because Rotom beats the Pokemon that my opponent has in the back. I guess, one bad thing that could happen here is an Icy Wind, which is actually very possible, so maybe not the best of moves on my end here. But I figured Gengar would want to go for the offensive, maybe launch a Sludge Bomb onto that Togekiss, or taunt the Rotom. Kangaskhan does Mega Evolve, so no Perish Trap looks like this game. That's going to, obviously get the chance to fake out here, maybe go for a Double Edge return, or a Power-Up Punch even immediately, but Togekiss is just going to protect and play it a bit safer here. We do see the fake out go into Togekiss, and Gengar, wow, goes for the Trick Room! That was not what I was anticipating, but very cool to see that. So I guess it's a good thing that I did in Tailwind, right? Very fascinating. I probably should have maybe anticipated that, actually, given his team. It's actually a very slow team in retrospect when I see the Amoonguss, the Azumarill, and the Heatran, so very nicely done on my opponent's end. I think I'm going to go for the Air Slash here onto the Gengar and just go for the Superpower onto the Kangaskhan. Okay, yeah, so it is a really, really slow Kangaskhan. He's going to go for the return onto Landorus. It's not enough to knock me out, brings me down to 53 HP. Hostile is at Gengar, not able to outspeed, so I do get the flinch chance immediately. He goes for the Sludge Bomb. Unfortunately, I don't flinch, which is really, really suckish. He gets the Sludge Bomb off as a result. That brings me down to my Citrus Berry. Flinch would have been really nice there, but, 60% isn't exactly the highest. But I do get the Superpower off here, at least, which is kind of nice. Let's see how much... Is it enough to knock it out? It is. Very nice. Oh, with the critical hit. I feel like, given that it's a Trick Room Kangaskhan and it's really slow, he probably was invested in bulk, so that crit probably mattered there. So I, do feel a bit bad for that. Guess makes up for the fact that I didn't get the flinch on Gengar, but we'll see. So Heatran comes in now. We do have 3 more turns of Trick Room to stall, though, which is really, really problematic right now. He's probably just going to launch a Heat Wave. So I think I should conserve Landorus. I should just protect here and switch out into Rotom Wash. The issue in that is my opponent might be smart and just Sludge Bomb the Landorus slot, predicting the Rotom switch in. So maybe I should have sacked the Landorus. That could have also worked out. Because I'm running a frailer Rotom, every switch counts just that much more. So he is going to launch that Heat Wave with Heatran. Let's see what item he has here as well. Wow, that did a lot of damage. Oh, that was a crit as well. And he Sludge Bombs into the Togekiss slot. Okay, that is really, really good for me. So now I can actually just Air Slash Gengar and Hydro Pump the Heatran. So in a surprisingly decent position here. He does launch another Heat Wave off, but that shouldn't knock out the Togekiss. Or the Rotom at that matter. Yeah, I hang on with both of my Pokemon. I do get the Air Slash off here. Let's see how fast the Gengar is. Maybe he'll be able to Sludge Bomb my Rotom. Oh, but I do get the flinch there. Does Hydro Pump connect? It misses Heatran. Oh. Ugh. Well, I mean, I get the flinch there, I guess, so I can't really complain too much, but... That's unfortunate. So that's 2 turns of Trick Room. I guess I'll double protect here. Yeah. Oh, that's heartbreaking. Huh, I wonder... So, Rotom here... well, Gengar went before the Rotom, meaning that I actually outspeed his Gengar once Trick Room expires, which is really, really good news to know. So, yeah, this is the play I'm going to set myself up for, as he reveals Shadow Ball on Rotom. Tripping actually expires. Wow. That was a mental fart on my end. Yeah, so that was a 4 turn there. Now let's see what we can do. We're down. I mean, we're not down. We're up 4-3. Rotom outspeeds. He could just Tailwind. I mean, I guess I could also just like Air Slash Heatran and Thunderbolt to knock out the Gengar, which would be probably the safest play. Let's see. Who does he potentially have in the back? That's what I need to consider the most. It's gonna be Landorus, Azumarill, or Amoonguss. I can deal with all 3 of those with what I have him. Not the Landorus, really, I guess. Maybe I should try setting up Tailwind, actually. But the real question is, does he attack with Heatran here? I could also... I mean, because, yeah, I could follow me here and Hydro Pump Heatran. But then he could set up Trick Room again, which would be bad. I don't think I want that possibility. So, yeah, I'll Air Slash Heatran and just Thunderbolt the Gengar here. I'm going to go for that flinch chance, basically. Yeah, he doesn't protect with Heatran, which is a great play on his end. So I do not get the Gengar here, which is nice. Wow, that last turn was crazy with the flinch and then the Hydro Miss. Okay, so Togekiss going for that Air Slash. Let's see if we do get the flinch. If not, I'm going to lose both of my Pokemon here to a Heat Wave, most likely. And I do get the flinch. Though granted, attacking with Heat Wave through an Air Slash and hitting both Pokemon is also not the highest of probabilities. So his last Pokemon is Azumarill. That's really good news for me here. Because what I'm going to be able to do is actually just follow me and... do I want a Thunderbolt or Hydro Pump? Because I can knock out one of his 2 Pokemon here. He'll probably Aqua Jet. You know what, I'm going to Thunderbolt here, just because I know Kangaskhan and Landorus beat the Heatran. So it's going to come down to whether he protects or not, because I guess he could protect and Heat Wave here. Nope, he Aqua Jets, perfect. So Aqua Jet target downs that Togekiss. That's going to be able to pick up the knockout, as Life Orb Thunderbolt here from Rotom Wash. Unless it's a Sylvester Azumarill, which it definitely could be. Look at that, it actually hangs on. Very nicely done. And Ancient Power coming out from Heatran. Interesting. You don't see that attack every day, but it's definitely a very viable one on Heatran. One to specifically counter Charizard and Talonflame. He doesn't get the stat boosts, which is relieving. So Kangaskhan in itself should be able to clean up this game at this point, but now I'm just going to bring in Kangaskhan and Landorus. And should be game here. He can't do too much with a very frail Azumarill and a Heatran. Let's also, you know, Heatran just can't really beat Kangaskhan. So I think I'm just going to go for the Fake Out this turn onto the Azumarill and the Superpower onto... I mean, I guess I could Earthquake here. But I'd rather not do damage to myself, so I'll just go for the safe Superpower, knowing that Low Kick wins the game. And my opponent actually is just going to forfeit here, knowing that he doesn't have really much of a chance to win. Though I think he should have played it out. That's one of the cases where it wasn't like 100% guaranteed for me to win. I could still mess up, potentially, and lose the game. So, though I guess if Azumarill, which was Assault Vest, I assume, you know, I wouldn't have been able to take that Fake Out. I guess he could have hoped that I went... No, yeah, I mean, I guess it makes sense for him to forfeit there, but I operate really under the belief that you should never forfeit unless it's like literally 100% chance that you can't win, but, you know, you should just play it out. Regardless, though, we are going to be able to pick up 2 wins with this team. You can already see how strong it is. There's a reason why Danny was able to finish in the top 4 at Massachusetts Regionals with this team and make a good run at Apex 2, finishing, I believe, 3rd there with this team. So, once again, huge shout-outs to him for giving me the team since he wanted me to feature it. It's been a lot of fun. I actually really enjoyed the first 2 games with this team, so I'm very excited to see what else we can do throughout the week. But yeah, that's going to be it for this episode, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Go follow Danny on Twitter if you don't. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Alright, peace.